If you find yourself constantly justifying their behavior, it's time to take a step back and ask yourself why. Why are you always explaining away their actions to your friends, your family, or even worse, to yourself? Because when you have to defend someone's lack of effort, their inconsistency, or their inability to meet you where you are, you're not in a relationship built on love and respect. You're in one built on hope, and hope alone cannot sustain a relation. Think about it. If someone truly values you, their actions will reflect that. You won't have to tell your best friend, oh, they've just been really busy lately, when deep down you know that their schedule hasn't changed. They've just stopped prioritizing you. You won't have to reassure yourself with thoughts like, maybe they're just not great at texting, when in reality, if they were interested, they would find the time. Because we all know this simple truth. People make time for what they care about. Yet, when we like someone, when we really, really want something to work, we start bending reality. We tell ourselves stories that make their behavior more palatable. We cling to the good moments, even when they're few and far between, and ignore the times we've felt neglected or unappreciated. We become their spokesperson, painting them in the best light possible, even when their actions tell a completely different story. Now, I get it. It's uncomfortable to admit that maybe someone just doesn't care as much as you do. It's painful to acknowledge that you might be more invested than they are. But the truth is, the longer you hold onto a version of them that only exists in your mind, the longer you delay finding the kind of love that is actually reciprocated. A love where you don't have to wonder if you matter. A love where you don't have to justify why someone isn't showing up for you, because they just do. And I know what you might be thinking, but they're a good person. And I don't doubt that. Maybe they are kind. Maybe they have moments where they make you feel amazing. Maybe they've had a difficult past and struggle with vulnerability. But here's the thing, you can have compassion for someone and still acknowledge that they are not right for you. Just because you understand why they behave a certain way doesn't mean you should tolerate it. You deserve consistency. You deserve to be with someone whose effort matches yours, not someone who leaves you constantly questioning if you're enough. Because the second you start making excuses for someone's lack of effort, you're setting a dangerous precedent. You're telling yourself, this is okay. You're teaching yourself to accept breadcrumbs when you deserve the whole meal. A great relationship isn't something you have to constantly explain to yourself or others. It's something that just is. When you're with the right person, you don't feel the need to justify their absence, their silence, or their lack of commitment, because there is no absence, there is no silence, there is no uncertainty, there is only the quiet confidence that you are wanted, valued, and prioritized. So, if you find yourself constantly making excuses, catch yourself. Recognize that the right person won't need you to explain away their flaws or compensate for their lack of effort. The right person will make it obvious that they're all in, and anything less than that, it's not love. It's just a distraction from the love you actually deserve. Let's talk about something that's easy to ignore but impossible to escape: the way a relationship makes you feel. We spend so much time looking for signs, analyzing behavior, and trying to crack the code of whether someone truly loves us. But the real test isn't in their words or their grand gestures. It's in the emotional state you find yourself in when you're with them. If you feel more insecure than secure, more anxious than at ease, that's not a relationship. It's a battle you're fighting with yourself. And the harsh reality? No one should ever have to fight to feel loved. Love is meant to be a foundation, not a question mark. But when you're forcing something with the wrong person, your entire emotional world starts revolving around one thing: uncertainty. You replay their texts in your mind, dissect their tone, wonder if you did something wrong when they pull away. Your confidence, which was once so natural, now feels fragile. It's like walking on a frozen lake, never knowing when the next crack will appear. And this is where we fool ourselves. We call it excitement, passion, chemistry. But what it really is emotional whiplash. A relationship that brings real security doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. It doesn't have you questioning your worth based on their moods, their availability, or their sudden shifts in attention. It's easy to mistake inconsistency for depth. Like if they withdraw and then suddenly come back, it must mean something. But the truth is, real love isn't built on these constant highs and lows. When someone genuinely cares, they don't put you in a position where you have to keep proving your value to earn their presence. They want to show up for you. They want to make you feel safe. But when you're with the wrong person, security is always just out of reach. And instead of accepting that, you start adapting. You shrink parts of yourself to avoid conflict. You lower your expectations so you don't have to be disappointed. You learn to be grateful for the bare minimum. Because after feeling ignored, even the smallest bit of attention feels like a win. This is how you lose yourself without even realizing it. And here's the worst part. When we feel insecure in a relationship, we blame ourselves. We start thinking, maybe I'm too needy. Maybe I expect too much. Maybe if I were more confident, this wouldn't bother me. But the truth is, when you're with someone who truly values you, your insecurities decrease. You feel steadier, calmer, more like yourself. That's the difference between real connection and emotional survival mode. Think about the relationships in your life that have made you feel the most secure. The ones where you didn't have to second guess everything. The ones where you could just be without needing to earn someone's love. That's what a relationship should feel like. And if you don't have that, if you're constantly feeling unsettled, then the question isn't, how do I fix this? It's, why am I accepting this? You are not meant to feel like a guest in your own love life, waiting to be invited in. The right person will never make you doubt your place in their world. Love is a two-player game. If you're the only one showing up, making plans, reaching out, and keeping the connection alive, then what you have isn't a relationship, it's a one-sided investment. And the truth is, no matter how much effort you put in, you can't build a relationship alone. That's not how this works. We like to tell ourselves, maybe they're just busy. Maybe they don't realize how much I'm doing. Maybe if I give them more time, they'll start putting in the same effort. But let's be honest, if they cared, they would. We all have responsibilities, commitments, and distractions in life. But when we value something, we find a way to nurture it. We prioritize it. And if you're the one constantly reaching out, trying to keep the spark alive while they remain distant, uninterested, or passive, then you have to ask yourself, are you in a relationship? Or are you just clinging to the hope that one day they'll wake up and appreciate everything you're doing? You can't force someone to invest in you. You can't make them care at the level you do. And the longer you try, the more exhausted you'll become. Relationships should be about mutual effort, about both people leaning in, not just one person trying to carry all the weight. Think about it. When you're always the one initiating plans, the one checking in, the one trying to maintain connection, it's not love, it's labor. And the sad part is, the more you invest, the harder it becomes to walk away. You convince yourself that because you've put so much in, you need to stay just a little longer to see if things will change. But deep down, you know the truth. Love isn't something that needs to be chased. If you're running after someone, it means they're running away. One of the hardest things to accept is that effort in a relationship should never feel like a constant uphill battle. Yes, relationships require work, but there's a difference between putting in effort and forcing something to exist. The right person doesn't make you feel like you're pulling teeth just to get a little bit of attention or time. They meet you halfway. They show up because they want to, not because you've begged, reminded, or convinced them to. So if you feel like you're constantly overcompensating, trying to fill the gaps in their lack of effort, then stop. Stop texting first every single time. Stop bending over backward to accommodate their schedule when they never do the same for you. Stop making excuses for why they don't show up for you in the way you deserve. Because the reality is, you're not in a relationship with them. You're in a relationship with your own effort. And the person who truly wants to be with you won't let that happen. They won't let you be the only one pulling the weight. They won't let you wonder where you stand. They'll show up for you, not out of obligation, but because they can't imagine doing anything else. When someone values you, you won't have to question it. You won't have to chase them, convince them, or beg for their attention. They will meet you with the same energy you bring to the table. And that's the kind of love you deserve. That's the kind of love that's worth your time. Anything less, walk away. Because the right person will never leave you feeling like you're doing all the work just to keep them interested. You know what's exhausting? Pretending to be someone you're not just to keep someone interested. The moment you feel like you have to filter yourself, tone yourself down, or hold back your thoughts just to keep the peace, you're already fighting a losing battle. Relationships are meant to be a place where you feel the most seen, the most understood, the most you. If you're in something that makes you second guess your own personality, your opinions, or even your sense of humor, then what are you really fighting for? Because I'll tell you right now, it's not love, it's fear. Fear of losing them, fear of rejection, fear that if you show up as your full, unfiltered self, they might decide you're not for them. And that fear makes you compromise in ways you don't even realize. At first, it's subtle. Maybe you bite your tongue when they say something that bothers you. Maybe you laugh at jokes that don't sit right with you, just to avoid being too sensitive. You tell yourself, it's fine, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. And every time you do that, you chip away at your authenticity, piece by piece. Then over time, it becomes more than just the small things. Maybe you stop bringing up your passions because they don't seem interested. You hesitate before expressing affection because you're afraid of coming on too strong. You hide your needs, your expectations, your desires, because deep down you're worried that if you ask for too much, they'll walk away. And when that happens, you're no longer in a relationship where you feel chosen. You're in a relationship where you're performing. The irony is, when you try to mold yourself into what you think they want, you're not giving them a chance to love you for who you actually are. And if you're not being yourself, who are they even choosing? You or the version of you that's been carefully curated to fit their comfort zone? If you can't show up as your full self, if you can't express your opinions, your emotions, your excitement, your quirks, then what exactly are you holding on to? Some of you are in relationships where you feel like you have to be less opinionated, less ambitious, less affectionate, because deep down you sense that being your full self might push them away. But here's the truth. The right person won't be repelled by the real you. They won't make you feel like you have to shrink to fit into their world. If you're constantly suppressing your own needs just to keep the relationship going, then you're not in something real. You're in a version of yourself that exists purely for their approval. And let me ask you this. If you do hold back, if you keep muting parts of yourself just to make it work, where does that leave you? 5 years from now, do you want to wake up next to someone who only knows the version of you that never rocked the boat? Who only knows the person that never spoke up when they were hurt? Who only knows the you that never demanded more because you were too afraid of losing them? That's not a relationship. That's an emotional prison. You should be with someone who celebrates you, not someone who merely tolerates you. The right relationship will never make you feel like you have to compromise your personality just to keep someone interested. It won't make you feel like your natural energy is too much. It won't make you feel like your standards are unrealistic. And it certainly won't make you feel like loving someone should come at the cost of abandoning yourself. Because the truth is, the person who's meant for you, they're going to love the way you think. They're going to love how passionate you get when you talk about something that excites you. They're going to love the way you care, the way you love, the way you are. They won't just accept you. They'll want you as you are, without conditions. And if someone doesn't, let them go. Let them walk. Because the real tragedy isn't losing them. The real tragedy is losing yourself just to keep them. Your gut is like that friend who sees the truth before you do. The one who doesn't sugarcoat, doesn't lie to make you feel better, and definitely doesn't care about the pretty little stories you tell yourself. And yet so many people spend their time ignoring it, pushing it down, drowning it out with logic, or worse, romanticizing the problem. Think about the times in your life when you just knew something wasn't right. Maybe it was that feeling you got when you were about to send a message and hesitated because deep down you knew you shouldn't have to be the one reaching out again. Or that moment when they said something offhanded and for a split second something inside you flared up telling you that wasn't okay. But then you dismissed it, convinced yourself you were overreacting, or worse, you found a way to justify it. That right there is the whisper of your gut, trying to save you from yourself. In a great relationship, your gut doesn't have to work overtime. It doesn't keep you up at night wondering if you're loved, respected, or valued. It doesn't send you little warning signs that you quickly sweep under the rug. But when you're with the wrong person, you start to notice patterns, not just moments. Patterns of doubt, patterns of feeling like something is missing even if you can't quite put your finger on it. Patterns of trying to convince yourself that you should be happy when deep down, you're not. And here's the truth. Your gut doesn't always scream. It whispers. It nudges. It leaves clues in the small ways you react to things. Have you ever noticed that when you really love being around someone, time flies? You don't feel drained afterward. You don't overanalyze every conversation. You just are. But when you're in the wrong relationship, you start doing emotional math, trying to balance out the good moments with the bad, trying to justify why things aren't quite working, but could work if only they changed this one thing. And that's a dangerous game, because the minute you start needing a scoreboard to track if your relationship is enough, you're already losing. Some people stay in relationships because they're afraid of regret. They think, what if I leave and realize I made a mistake? But here's what you need to remember. Regret is temporary. Living with the wrong person, forcing a relationship that isn't meant for you, that's permanent. And you don't just pay the price in years wasted, you pay it in the slow erosion of your self-worth, in the little compromises that add up until one day you wake up and don't even recognize yourself anymore. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing they can think their way out of a bad relationship, when in reality it's not about logic. It's about alignment. Does this person bring out your best self? Do they add peace to your life? Or do they make you feel like you're constantly proving your worth? Are you happy when you're with them? Or just happy when they finally give you attention? These aren't questions you answer with your head. These are questions you answer with your gut. And I know. It's easy to say, trust your gut. It's harder to do when your emotions are involved, when you've invested time, when you care about someone deeply. But caring about someone isn't the same as being right for them. You can love someone and still not belong with them. You can want something to work and still know deep down that it never really will. Love should never be something that needs to be forced. And here's where people get stuck. They assume that if something isn't bad, that means it's good. But that's not true. A relationship doesn't have to be toxic for it to be wrong. It doesn't have to be filled with fights and betrayals for it to be unhealthy. Sometimes it's just a slow, quiet dissatisfaction, a dull ache of knowing you're not being fulfilled in the way you should be. And if you feel that, if you've been carrying that weight for a while, you don't need more proof. You don't need a catastrophic event to confirm what you already know. You just need to be brave enough to listen to the truth that's already inside you. So if your gut is whispering that something is off, don't silence it. Don't wait for it to scream before you finally pay attention, because the right relationship doesn't feel like a guessing game, a constant negotiation, or a battle between your heart and your instinct. It just feels right. Are you in love with them, or are you in love with who you wish they could be? This is a hard question to ask ourselves, because when we're deeply invested in someone, we don't want to admit that we might be chasing a fantasy. But here's the truth. The most dangerous illusion in a relationship isn't the lies someone tells us. It's the ones we tell ourselves. We meet someone and we see all this potential. We see glimpses of kindness, moments of connection, flashes of the kind of love story we crave. And in those fleeting moments, we tell ourselves, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. We cling to those rare, beautiful moments, convincing ourselves that if we just wait long enough, if we just love them the right way, they will become that version of themselves all the time. But that's not love. That's hope disguised as love. And hope can be a beautiful thing until it keeps you stuck in something that's never going to change. Think about it. Have you ever found yourself constantly saying, but they have so much potential? That phrase alone is a giant red flag. It means you're not in love with who they are right now. You're in love with an imaginary version of them that may never exist. And in doing that, you're actually dismissing the reality of your situation. You're overlooking how they treat you in the present because you're so focused on what could be. That's how people end up in relationships where they're constantly justifying bad behavior, making excuses, or staying in a dynamic that makes them feel unfulfilled. And I get it, leaving isn't easy. We tell ourselves, but what if I just give them a little more time? What if they're just going through a rough patch? What if I walk away now and they finally become the person I always knew they could be, but for someone else? That last one, that's the one that gets us stuck the longest. The idea that someone will become their best self after we leave is a terrifying thought because we don't want to feel like we did all the work, we gave all our love, and someone else reaps the reward. But here's what you have to realize. The right person for you will already be that person. Not someday, not when they finally grow up, not after they lose you. The right person will already want to show up. They will already be capable of love, commitment, and consistency. They won't be someone you have to keep waiting on, wishing for, or trying to fix. And that's the hardest pill to swallow. Because deep down, we don't want to admit that the person we love might never be capable of giving us what we need. A relationship should be built on what is, not what if. If you are constantly having to wait for someone to be ready, for them to figure themselves out, for them to get there, then you're not in a relationship. You're in an emotional waiting room, hoping that one day the door will open and they'll finally walk out as the person you always believed they could be. And let's be honest, how many people actually do? How many people really transform just because we love them enough? We want to believe that love can change people, but love only has power when someone wants to change. If they don't want it for themselves, your love won't be enough. It never will be. So what do? You take an honest look at your situation, not through the lens of hope, not through the filter of potential, but through reality. How do they treat you now? How do they make you feel today? Are you happy as things are, or are you constantly waiting for the next version of them? If you're always waiting, you have to ask yourself, how long am I willing to wait? A year? 2 years? 5? And what happens if they never change? Are you willing to spend years of your life hoping for something that might never come? The harsh truth is, if someone isn't already showing you that they are the person you need them to be, they probably never will be. That doesn't mean they're a bad person. That doesn't mean they don't have their own struggles, wounds, or reasons for being the way they are. But those reasons aren't yours to fix. You can love someone deeply and still recognize that they are not the right person for you. And the longer you hold on to the fantasy, the longer you delay your own happiness. Real love isn't about waiting for someone to be who you need. It's about meeting someone who already is. Because the right person, they don't leave you waiting. They don't make you question your worth. They don't keep you chasing after them, hoping one day they'll finally catch up. The right person, they are already standing right beside you, showing up, fully present, fully committed. And anything less than that, it's not love. It's a dream you're trying to force into reality. So stop waiting. Stop holding on to a version of them that only exists in your mind. Love yourself enough to choose what is real. Because I promise you, the love you deserve won't require you to wait for it.